Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. And just a couple of notes before we start. That the books are the ebooks are all online free. So there's loads of ebooks and audiobooks which you'll find on the website. And the website, I should have actually put that, but it's iamfree.co.za. But it was on the email as well, I think. And then, so if we can just keep the questions to the end, if you've got any questions, then I'm happy to do my best to try and answer them. And as they tell us, the Ascended Masters, it's a lifetime study. And so we need to go slowly and really try and absorb it and to live it. So, but it truly is the most important information. And I think about how I was before I got this knowledge, which was many years ago now. I don't know how I can live my life without it. It's just so amazing to have the knowledge of our own I presence. So if you haven't given me, if you're on and you haven't given me your email address, please do that so that I can add you to the next one. And now, whoops, I want to just, sorry. I meant to start there. So I'm just wondering who'd like to read this. I'm not quite sure who's got. Corin, would you like to read the opening invocation? Can you see it on your screen, or are you just on a phone? I think you're on a phone.
I'm sorry, I'm on a phone and I got very bad cataracts. I don't see too well.
Okay, all right. Let me read it tonight. Unless you'd like to read it, Jeff, beloved.
Can I read it?
Please, thank you.
All right, let's turn to the reading. Beloved presence of God, I am. It is thy life and intelligence that enables me to read and comprehend and absorb that which required of me. For life, I am so grateful. Beloved Master Kutumi, I ask for your feeling and your capacity to use this instruction for God's glory and mankind's comfort. We thank you. And now, great I am presence, take me within thyself. There instruct me and cause me to return the full memory of the inner instruction. Thank you.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Jeff. Bless you. Yeah, so it's always good. The Ascended Masters say it's really important to actually ask for this before we start. Often, like on a Monday night, which we have had regular Mondays for years now, a study group, we have like a short meditation also. But we won't do that today. We just have asked for the Ascended Masters to give us their consciousness, really. And so I just thought it's always good to understand, where does the name I am come from and why is it so important? So from the Ascended Master books, they tell us that the name I comes from our Father God, Alpha, and Am comes from our Mother God, Omega. So we were actually born out of the heart of these great beings. They are head of the great central sun of this universe. And when we decided to further expand and become more masterful, which is what we do when we take on a lower, we take on physical form in a lower frequency on a planet to learn more mastery, we then get given these physical bodies. And then we choose, so it's just like that. So but the name is always I am. And we are vested with the same power as our Father, Mother God, the mighty Alpha and Omega. And we create when we use that sacred name, I am. So we have free will. And this is where all the discord, unfortunately, in our life and world comes from, because we have misused that pure, perfect life or energy that comes down from our own I am presence. And so, but in the beginning, there was only one language, they tell us, and one race. And the name has always been I am. So since the very beginning of time on this planet and all planets in this particular system, no matter what language. So those records are actually in the Teton retreat, which is in the Teton Mountains in Wyoming in America. So it's very important. Now, when we realize that our planet is millions of years old, the history of Moses and the history of Jesus, for instance, and Lord Gautama, Muhammad, and the way showers, it's very recent because it is millions of years old. But let's just take the example of the bush, the burning bush. When Moses said to the burning bush, who is speaking to me? And the bush replied, I am that I am. That is my sacred name. And then it said, go and tell the Israelites, I am sent you. So even though it was in the ancient Aramaic, we're told by the Ascended Masters it was still pronounced I am. And we know that Jesus prefaced all his famous statements with I am. So he said, I am the way, the truth, the light. I am the open door that no man can shut, and so on, because he knew about his own I am presence. But the consciousness of the people at that time were just not ready to receive it. So all religions are basically being created by humans from the knowledge given by the way showers of that time. But they couldn't have even created religions without their own I am presence, because that's what gives us life and intelligence. So the important teachings of Jesus were actually lost. The sinister forces come in, which they do, unfortunately, in virtually all the light things. But I do believe things are really changing now. And so the word I am was misunderstood to make us believe that we do not have the power within us, and to make us believe that someone else had to save us. So this was basically to keep us enslaved, because as we're told, there can be no vicarious, in other words, something outside of us, atonement at one-ment without I am presence. So in other words, nobody can save us except ourselves. Well, that's pretty obvious, because whatever we sow, we reap. So it's but we can learn from the great way showers. If we lived according to what their teachings showed us, we would be a lot further on, I believe. But also we were told by Jesus, for instance, that what I have done, you will do too, and greater things still. So, the understanding that Jesus was the only Son of God is just simply not true, even just by that statement that he said. And he also said always, I of myself can do nothing. It's the Father within, which is great I am presence. So basically, Jesus came to show us the power of the light over the human form through the use of the light, the sacred flame, which was the transfiguration flame, resurrection flame, and ascension flames. So those lights are qualified with an ability, and they which we'll go more into over the weeks if you're interested. But it's really the transfiguration flame, for instance, is a combination of the flame of peace and the violet flame. It's a very, very powerful combination, but I'll share more of that as we go along. But he showed us the power of light over the human form. So from a mutilated body, through the light, particularly the resurrection flame in the tomb, he resurrected all the cells of his physical body. And so he was in this resurrected state. Yeah, amazing. So understanding God. I've just had a message from Gayleen. Let me just quickly send this to her, because she wants to get on. And so excuse me, everybody, won't be a second. I just want to forward it to her quickly. There we go. So understanding God. Now, this is important because, God, the name God is such a universal name, and it does carry a lot of power, make no mistake. But as the Ascended Masters say, God in the abstract and God individualized is a point of dogma which has been the basis of controversy for ages. And we're also told that God comes from the word good, which makes sense, doesn't it? So for me, it's a good analogy would be just to describe it, to describe the word God would be to put, because there's many, many gods and goddesses. And so a kind of overall sort of word for it would be God. Whereas if we look at humanity, for instance, there's many of us, and yet we, sort of collective, we're called humanity. So that's maybe one way of looking at it also. But they say God is everywhere. God is spirit. There is no nook, no corner, no cranny where God is not. So these are the statements of the abstract presence of the palpable body of God. But now they say, can one have a spirit without a focus? Can one have, even in the unascended realm, an aura without a human being? And so also the example is, can we have a candle without a wick? Can we have the light of a candle? So can one have the Spirit of God without the presence of an intelligence, of a thinking and feeling being from whence that spirit ensues? No, and as below, so above. So we are all individualized, and this is where the real key comes into it all, which is misunderstood in the other teachings. So to think of God as an omnipresence is but to receive a fragmentary part of its power. So only as we have an individualized focus can we have a greater power. That's from the great divine director. And it just makes so much sense. We literally have this hotline to the ascended masters realm and our I am presence. So in the 1930, the occult law was lifted by a mighty cosmic being, Victory. Actually, Saint Germain called mighty Victory. He's from Venus. He's never known anything but Victory. Called to ask him to actually come and assist here on the planet, and he has. He's been here for a long time, really bringing that victory of the light. But anyway, the occult law, which is the law that hides things, which was necessary before, because in the wrong hands, the light acts. So it was a necessary thing to have it hidden. So even in the time of Jesus, even though he prefaced all his statements with I am, it wasn't really released to the masses. But now nothing is hidden anymore. And so this allowed Saint Germain and other ascended masters to bring the necessary knowledge for those who choose. Not everybody does, as we're told. All are called, but few choose. Very interesting. So to use this knowledge for the golden age dawning and to make our ascension. So this knowledge is as old as the beginning of time. It's just newly packaged now to suit the consciousness of the people and to awaken as many as possible. And we're told it's a time of choice, very important. So the thing is, is that it's packaged in a way now where it's very simple, very easy to understand, where even children, they say, can understand it, because there's no more hiding in parables and having to be deciphered and assumptions and presumptions made as people sort of try to understand it. It's just very plain and simple and easy to understand and apply. So the information is important for us all, because we have no life without our own I am presence. So it is the life and energy that comes into our physical bodies, animating and giving us our intelligence and the ability to think, feel, move, and have our being. So it is through our cause, our decrees, which we're going to do in a later course. We'll talk about the decrees. So when we issue the decree in the name of our I am presence, we call forth the light to redeem and set ourselves free and set all life free that we have ever hurt or harmed. It is just such a marvelous thing that they brought to us now. So then we can take our next evolutionary step of the ascension, which all must do one day. It's not something that is actually optional. So this is what the great divine director says. He's a mighty, mighty cosmic being. He was the teacher of Jesus, the teacher of Lord Kuthumi, beloved Saint Germain, many of the ascended masters now. And he says this is a wholly different activity from anything you have ever known before, because in the recognition of your own individual God presence, the mighty I am, which you can call into action, a power is released 1,000 times greater than anything that can be released in thinking of God as an omnipresence. That is why this activity produces such powerful results in the life of an individual. And I can tell you now, and I'm certainly the eternal student, but I do make decrees daily and have done for many years, well over 15 years. It is how I manage without my I am presence, the knowledge, I just don't know. It's just such a powerful thing that out goes the light and in come the results. So these teachings differ from other teachings as they are wholly divine, truly. So there's been no interference and no translations. and which is a great thing, really. I remember when I first got the books, I used to open the books and the light would come right off the books. Literally, it was just such an amazing thing. So, and they say to us, read the books, they are the key, and they truly are. In fact, they say, let those that run read and learn the ways of light while there is yet time, because we are now in this cosmic in-breath, and we will go through this over the weeks. Very important for us to understand what happened to our planet and why there is such this urgency now in people to start to wake up and understand that the power is within us, our great I am. So these teachings have a radiation which human books don't have, but only by reading them yourself will you find out. Like anything, I can say do it, but you'll find out for yourself. So they say there's nothing more important in all the world than knowing and accepting that we have an individualized presence of God above and within us, and the name is I am. So every time we say I am, we are calling our mighty I am presence to act in our world. So we have the gift of free will, so we can create with the light and life from our own I am presence. And without free will, we can't actually create, if you think about it. So it's our greatest gift, but it's also our greatest challenge, because it's very easy for us humans, especially in this fallen state that we are currently in, to misuse life, to have thoughts of fear, to have thoughts of anger or irritation or sadness, or all these lower frequencies. And there we are literally misusing this pure divine light from our own I am presence. Saint Germain says, put your I am to work. So there, he says, even ask it to open windows. So there you go. It's amazing the things we can do. So there's a purpose to creation. There's a purpose to our lives. Every single one of us, we all have a very important reason for being. And the Ascended Masters say the purpose of creation is to unfold a spiritual nature and become master of energy and vibration. Expand the kingdom, which is the kingdom of the great Father, Mother, God, each one of us, and make the ascension at one-ment, which is really atonement, which is at one with our I am presence. And we ascend into that pure, whoops, I forgot to finish with that, but into that pure light of the I am. So this can only be done through the knowledge and application of qualified light from our I am presence and the ascended hosts. So we'll go more into understanding light, but qualified light is basically light qualified with an ability. So we can qualify light, because it's everywhere, we live in light, with, say, an ability of faith. It becomes blue. We can qualify light with pure divine love. It becomes pink. It literally becomes pink. And sometimes you can see that with your physical sight. You might have your inner sight open, or in meditation, you'll see it. So our conscious control and use of our own creative faculties of thought and feeling are also prerequisites for our success. Because without holding the harmony and the conscious control of our thoughts and feelings, we are unfortunately in that in that lower state, which is often distressful. So we become masters through this, and we really become ascended masters, just as there are thousands of ascended masters. So they've given us the same tools that they use to become ascended masters, and that's what we learn from these amazing teachings, truly. And we learned about that threefold nature, which is love, wisdom, and power, which is actually the flame within our hearts. It's the anchorage within our hearts, but we're going to cover that just now. So we are an aspect of our individualized I am presence in this lower realm, and our choice every moment determines our destiny. So it's very important using our time and energy wisely, and we need to be vigilant every moment about what are we allowing into our thoughts and our feelings. Is it of a high frequency? Is it good? Because often we allow our thoughts to drift into worry, and all these lower things, which actually are not, first of all, they're not permanent, because nothing that's not good is permanent. It just will be erased with that violet flame, which we're also going to learn about. So we came to use the light from our I am presence to live and fulfill our individual divine plan. We all made a vow before we took physical embodiment, millions of years ago, some of us, to fulfill an individual divine plan according to our own free will. That was the plan that was most most akin to what we were feeling at the, and that we were all part of this really huge tapestry with our one particular stitch in that tapestry that no one else can fill. That's why it's so important that we understand this knowledge and we start moving in to make our ascension. And we're also learning to assist the earth at this critical time of this cosmic in-breath, which we will learn in the next few weeks. So we're here to learn mastery, expand the kingdom, and take our next evolutionary step as ascended beings. And also good to remember, life is never static. It's ever expanding. So we want to expand the light, not the negativity and the darkness. So how do we do this? We learn from those that have already ascended, the ascended masters. So I remember when years ago, before I got these teachings, I had a whole shelf on ascension, but it was all written by unascended beings. So they didn't tell me really how to do it. Whereas now they've given us these thousands of pages from the ascended masters that came in through a visible light and sound ray in the 1930s and again in the 1950s and onward. So it was a visible light and sound ray, and the people in the room could hear the ascended master speaking, and they took the notes. They took down exactly what they said. So we've given the same tools, techniques, and methods to reach our ascension now as they have. And so they say to us, don't worship us, behave like us. That's what they really want us to do. So it's just amazing what they've given us. But sadly, most want it on a silver platter, literally, without doing the work. They want someone else to save them. It's almost been like programmed into humanity. That we can live and think and feel and do whatever we like, and it's not going to affect our lives. Well, unfortunately, that's just not the truth, because whatever we sow, we reap. Mathematically accurate, that is, yeah. So we can't carry on the same way and expect change. That's the most important thing. This is what the great divine director says. He says, these ascended master teachings give people the truth of their own I am presence, which will liberate and free every one of mankind if each one will apply it with earnestness and determination, and it will not apply itself. So that's why they teach us about decrees and meditation, which are very important, which we will be going over in the next weeks. So it's very important, they say, to learn to listen to the still small voice within, because that is, while it might not be an audible voice, it's a feeling, or it's a thought that comes in, and we have to be discerning as to what is acting. Is it our I am presence, or is it our human? So if it's about fear, and if it's about limiting things, and or anything that's not really good, although we might be given a prompt, a warning not to do something, but the I am presence is always there and always guiding us if we just listen. Even like we might forget our keys, there's so many different things. It's constantly guiding us. So I'm always trying and constantly practicing to listen to that still small voice within. And it makes no mistakes. And as we're told, discernment is very important on our part. So we don't rely on others, as none of them know the divine plan for another. So in the human realm, especially, except for the ascended masters, they know our divine plan. So we don't know what's in the hearts or what they have been through other people. That's why they say we never judge. We never judge another. We don't know what prompts them to behave in that way, and they certainly don't have this knowledge that we have. So, but there are many false gods and entities in the psychic realms. So the false gods, typical of false gods, are the desire for fame, status, wealth. Not that we're meant to be poor, not at all, but that would become the god it would take the place of our mighty I am presence. We're not meant to be poor. We're meant to have all we need, but we use it for good, not to elevate ourselves in the human realm. So that's a very important thing. So we always have to be alert to what is actually acting in us, the human or the divine. It's a very important thing, constantly practicing it. Okay, we're going to listen to this video now. It's about our I am presence. It's just a good understanding of it from ADK Look. This is an excerpt from The Law of Life, Book 1 by A.D.K. Look. No matter what religion or faith an individual believes in, or what metaphysical or occult teachings he may be following, they all eventually lead to the same vital and focal principle, the knowledge and awareness of the I Am Presence. No one gets into the higher realms and cosmic development except through his own individualized I Am Presence. The unascended masters in India have touched on this principle. They have contact with their I Am Presence, although they may call it by another name. They would not reveal this fact or even speak of it in those terms, but they have made the inner contact and are aware of their own presence. The I Am Presence is the all-pervading principle in life, the most divine activity in the universe. It is the only active principle each one has. It is ever striving for expression to produce perfection through each form. The first principle of life is to love. That is the nature of every individual. Love is the fundamental principle of all creation. I Am is the life principle and intelligence in your body. It is the principle of life expressed through Jesus. Real intelligence is not an activity of the intellect, but comes from the God principle, the flame, I Am, and uses everything constructively. The three principles, faith, hope, and charity, or love, are always active in mankind. I Am is the creative word, the initial word that produced creation, and from which all creation springs. The words I Am are the cup, the two cups that carry the power into outer activity. The use of the word I Am denotes individualized being. The word I Am, as spoken in English, releases the energy from God, your own individualized presence, which is your source. That presence is the fountain of energy from which you receive, every moment of your life, the energy that keeps you alive. When you say the words I Am, then you invoke life. To think or speak those words draws life into manifestation. Have you ever thought that you use I Am preceding all you do in your daily activities, either in thought, feeling, or spoken word, and that no other person can say or use that expression for you? On awakening in the morning, you think or say before you get up, I am going to get up. I am going to get breakfast. I am going to work, and so on. In everything you do, you use the expression I Am. The expression I Am, as used in English, has ever been used all through the ages from the beginning of the world, although that secret knowledge was lost to the masses. It has always been used and known in the retreats. Jesus said death and life are in the power of the tongue, meaning the use of the word I Am. And if you will notice, he preceded his most important statements with the word I Am. Most people are familiar with these statements. I am the light of the world. I am the light that lighteth every man. I am the resurrection and the life. I am the ascension in the light. I am that I am. Also, the light of the body is the I am, E-Y-E, I. If your I, E-Y-E, be single, your body will be filled with light. These statements have lived through the centuries and remain unaltered. They could not be changed. They still carry the same meaning and potency. I Am is the so-called lost word. The word itself was not lost, but the inner or real meaning, understanding, use, and power were lost to the consciousness of mankind. When you use I, or a form of it, as me, my, mine, never use a negative word following it. Okay, so well described by Alice Schultz. So this is very important for our progress. Saint Germain says, so we do not allow appearances to affect you. He says, I say this to all of you, beloved students. Please carry this message everywhere. There is nothing in the outer world that warrants you becoming irritated, and that includes sad, depressed, arrogant, fearful, etc. When you know this law, precious ones, you must live it, because you have entered this great stream of life and you alone are responsible. So he says, you do not have to accept these things, but we have given you the law, the application, the knowledge of the I Am Presence by which you can govern all these things, and it is imperative that you do so. So over the weeks, we go through these things, also at the workshops, plus there's loads of information on the website. There's lots where to begin, and there's just a lot of information there. So the power of the invisible, the great divine director says, that which is invisible to you is the thing which plays the greatest havoc in your world. And it is your power of qualification, because everything which comes into your world must come through you into your world of activity. If your feeling is discordant, then it will carry whatever that discord is into your world and produce of its kind. That's just where they're saying, in another word, as we sow, so we reap. And he says, I tell you, dear ones, no person on the face of this earth who once becomes aware of their I Am Presence, which beats each heart, who will give it sincere, earnest attention and call its powers into action, will ever find him or herself in need of anything. And I must just say, honestly, and I'm no different to anybody else. I'm certainly not any different to anybody else, but I have proved that for myself. Honestly, if I need finances, because I do everything on donation, I do get a bit of income coming through from my son. He gives me a bit of money, but most of it through donations and what have you. And my I Am Presence never lets me down on any level. It's just quite extraordinary. But we have to be diligent and hand the power over to the presence. Anyway, he says individuals will have omnipresent in their worlds for use everything their hearts desire, and there is no exception to it. I just love that from the great divine director. It's just so comforting and so spot on. Okay, this is interesting. This is from a neuroscientist, Jeffrey Fanon, but there we can see the power of the heart, because we're going to go through the chart just now, but this is good. It's very short, but good.
Law in physics that basically says that when you have energy that is vibrating at a particular frequency, within 17 seconds, other energy like that will be attracted to it. So if I'm having a positive thought or a negative thought, then what happens is that energy is attracted to it. I have other thoughts that are like that thought. So if you do that 17 seconds, for 68 seconds, then momentum begins to occur. Let's say that I'm normally, all of our emotions have a frequency to it. So if I'm in despair or anger or worry, all of those are lower, denser frequencies. You get into things like contentment, happiness, joy, love. Those are higher, faster frequencies. So let's say that I normally live in contentment. And that's my set point, because that's where I live. I think about that all the time. That's what my makeup is, that sort of thing. So I'm driving down the highway. All of a sudden a car cuts me off, and I get angry. So now I'm in the lower, denser frequencies. And so then I go back to the office, and I'm telling all my colleagues, here's what happened. This knucklehead cut me off. Go home, tell my wife that. What am I doing? I'm vibrating angry energy. So I go to the supermarket, and there is somebody in line. I have 3 items, and I'm getting in line, and somebody ahead of me has 38 items. And the guy that's running the cash register, it's his first day, and he's not doing very well. He's very slow. Is that a coincidence? No, it's something for me to get angry about. So I'm attracting into my world whatever it is that I'm vibrating.
So there we have it. It's very, very accurate. It's just like that. Whatever we, Saint Germain says, where our attention is, there we are, and what we focus on, we bring into our world and into our activities. He says we force it in. Okay, this is also short, but very good. It's also good understanding this.
Once upon a time, a person went to Gautam Buddha seeking advice on how to control his emotions. The person was struggling with anger and frustration, and he was looking for a way to manage his emotions better. Buddha smiled and asked him to sit down. He said, I will tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a king who ruled a prosperous country. One day, he decided to visit the neighboring kingdom. He had heard that the king of that kingdom was famous for his wisdom. When the king arrived, he was welcomed with great honor. The king of the neighboring kingdom had prepared a grand feast in his honor. During the feast, the king noticed a fly in his soup. He was disgusted and ordered his servant to bring him another bowl of soup. The king of the neighboring kingdom saw this and said, "Your Majesty, please do not be angry. It was just a small fly. It does not matter." The king replied, "I cannot tolerate such things. Even a small fly can ruin my mood." The king of the neighboring kingdom smiled and said, "Your Majesty, allow me to give you a piece of advice. It is not the fly that ruined your mood, but your reaction to it. You have the power to control your emotions. Do not let them control you." The king realized the wisdom in these words and returned to his kingdom. From that day onwards, he started practicing the art of not reacting to situations that would previously trigger his emotions. He found that he was able to maintain his composure in challenging situations and was able to make better decisions. The power of not reacting is an important lesson for all of us. We often react to situations without thinking, and this can lead to negative consequences. Reacting to situations with anger and frustration can damage our relationships with others and hinder our ability to make clear-headed decisions. However, it is important to understand that not reacting does not mean that we should suppress our emotions. Emotions are a natural part of our human experience, and it is important to acknowledge them. Instead of reacting impulsively, we should take the time to process our emotions and respond in a thoughtful manner.
Sorry, whoops. I clipped that out of a video. I thought it was really good. But now we have the knowledge of our I am presence and the use of the sacred fire, particularly the violet flame, to transmute the cause of these things that make us distressful in whatever, or discordant in whatever way it is. So it's really important to understand that this wonderful information that we've been given now, and to start practicing it and putting it, into action. And it changes our lives completely. So this is what they say. If you find yourself in a negative situation, or you hear negative things being said or actions taken, or you keep regurgitating negative thoughts and feelings or old patterns, immediately call to your I am presence to take command of it all, hold its dominion and produce its perfection, and watch the magic happen. So because all the experiences that we receive are basically there because we have created them to learn from them, whether it's from this life or from our many past lives, especially the people in our lives, those nearest and dearest to us are often our greatest teachers. They're the ones that teach us what we need to learn. But we have to be quiet and go within and think quietly what we do need to learn from it. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to stay with the people, but it doesn't mean that we've got work to do on ourselves, because as the Ascended Masters say, it's never about the other, it's always about us. And if anybody's triggering us, we've got work to do by ourselves. But this is very good. This is short, but it's very interesting. I really enjoyed this too.
Anything you say with the words I am, your subconscious will then take that as a command. And so we're constantly programming our subconscious. See, a lot of people think when they're describing the present, well, I'm sick, But the fact is, you're prescribing the future by describing the present as it is. And most people never get that. So this is why the people that live the most effective lives are always acting as if they're in the future and the future's perfect, not waiting to get there.
So there it is. You see, we're prescribing the future by what we say, which is exactly true, isn't it? So I really like that. So they say it's so important. Saint Germain says you've got to reverse that fatal habit of saying negative things after I am, because there our beloved I am presence goes into action, because we're using the light and the life from our own I am presence to do that. And that's where all our karma comes from. So this is what the great divine director says. He says, as you come to know the presence, the mighty I am is above you. You have found the source of life, which is the individualized presence of God. It is why we as ascended beings, as cosmic beings, have our freedom, because we found that presence. And now we have also found that presence. We've given this extraordinary knowledge by the Ascended Masters. We're so grateful. So now we're going to go through the chart. So this chart represents you. This is what Saint Germain says. It is our true identity. So every human being on earth in every embodiment has sought how to make his permanent contact with God, in inverted commas, which is our I am presence within and above, which is light. He says, will you tell me how many people have ever done it? They have intermittent flights of inspiration, felt its touch very much, but no one was able to hold it, and no one can until he understands the source of life. This chart represents you. It gives you the correct idea of your own presence, your mighty I am presence, your source of light and life. So it came in, Saint Germain in the 1930s actually projected this image into a woman called May de Camera, and he asked her to produce it. So she actually, I'm not sure how she did it. I think she painted it, but it came in like that. It was quite, just amazing. And so this chart actually has a divine energy. It has a frequency. And so it's a really good thing to print one out. You can get one from the website, the iamfree.co.za or ZA. So it's suggested that we copy, have a print of it made and put it in a lovely frame, put it in your homes. So in the 1930s, you can see that the charts were slightly different. The rays were in a different position, and also that in the 50s, the Holy Christ Self was, or the higher mental body, was added to the chart. So, but I think the reason why Saint Germain didn't put it in the beginning, although when Guy Ballard was describing the chart, he always mentioned the higher mental body or the Christ Self. But I think he wants us to realize that truly the source of everything is our own I am presence. And the Christ Self is just created by our I am presence. They call it like a step down transformer. So it's an intermediate being. Every bit as tangible and real as we are down here, but in a higher frequency. It's our guardian angel as well. But it knows the imperfections and the struggles we have down here, and then it can take the message up to the I am presence to send out the rays, and literally out go the rays for whatever we need. We might need a car, we might need more money, and in comes the car or the money if we don't block it with our lack of faith. And it's always in the divine time of our own presence. But anyway, so we've got these 7 bodies. We're going to listen to this description of the chart by Eddie K. Look again. It's very good, very well explained. This is an excerpt from The Law of Life, Book 1, by Eddie K. Look. It is a description of the chart of the magic I am presence. The physical form, you, your outer self, is at the bottom. Above or over that is the individualized presence of God, the magic I am presence, your source. It is in a body of light substance. If you were to see it, it would appear in a form similar to the physical body, but vibrating at a much higher rate. Therefore, it is not visible to the physical sight. It is a living being, intelligent, real, in blazing light. It is a focus of all the God powers that your outer self may draw upon. It supplies the outer self with life, intelligence, power, and action. Man enjoys all its powers but does not understand it. You can speak to it as you speak to a friend. Jesus called it the Father. Rays of intense white light pour out from the presence, some large and many smaller ones. Around the presence are spheres of light substance in colors of the 7 rays and the various tints of each day. In the center is the white light, the natural radiance of the presence. Outside of that is a sphere of electric blue. On a flat surface, they are portrayed as circles or bands of colors, but in reality they are spheres. Outside and around the blue is one of yellow, then around it is a beautiful pink, around that crystal white. Next is an apple green, then the ruby, or this may be gold or a mixture, and the outer sphere is violet or purple. These are in order of the 7 rays, and they interblend. That is known as the causal body, which contains all the accumulated good, the constructively qualified essence of that life stream through the ages, created both while in embodiment and between embodiments. These spheres vary with each individual in size and quality. White rays from the I Am Presence pour out through these spheres of color, utilizing the qualities therein. They are the action of divine mind and love by which the Presence carries on its creation at cosmic levels. From the heart of the Presence is a ray of light extending down, entering the human body through the top of the head, where the soft spot is in a newborn child. And it is anchored in the heart. This is the stream of life that beats the heart and keeps the person alive. When it withdraws, so-called death ensues. In like manner, the Presence is connected by a ray of light with the central sun through the sun of the systems. The ray of light from the Presence, the silver cord, enters the top of the head, goes to the heart and to the base of the brain, the medulla oblongata, and from there is distributed by tiny threads of light to every cell of the body. This is how your body has life. This is an unconscious action on the part of the outer self, but consciously carried on by the Christ self, or the higher mental body, and the body elemental. There are being distributed enough light for the body to function properly in the physical, to render the service in the outer that the Christ self wants to do in that embodiment and fulfill the divine plan. In mankind today, much of the energy is drawn down by the outer self and used discordantly in the various human expressions. But it should be poured back in love to the magic I Am Presence, thus completing the circuit. That is the right action. Around the human form is a pillar of light. It is established or placed there by the I Am Presence, at the call of the outer or personal self. This pillar of protection insulates the lower bodies from the vibratory action in which one must move. Within the pillar of light can be established the transmuting violet flame of divine love, mercy, and compassion. This is also done at the call of the personal self, and can be activated at any time to any degree, depending on the capacity of the individual. This is how one can redeem karma, the destructively qualified energy of all lives, all misuse of energy of the life stream, as well as that accepted from without. This accumulation is condensed around the physical form. In between embodiments, this accumulation stays in the atmosphere of Earth, while the individual sojourns in the realms of light. At re-embodiment, most of it is held in abeyance until around the 14th year, when it is returned to the individual, its creator. The pillar of light and violet flame interpenetrate each other. Above the physical body is the Christ self, or the higher mental body, also called the higher self. It is also known as the guardian angel. It abides between the presence and the outer or human form, usually not illustrated. It has been provided by the presence to act for and take care of the requirements of the outer self. It is the only begotten Son of God. The Christ self is the action of the presence that knows its perfection and also knows the imperfection and requirements of the outer self. It is endowed with a discriminating intelligence to act in the outer. It might be termed a step-down transformer with a capacity to act in the lower realms. The Christ self does not accept any imperfection of the outer, but remains wholly pure and perfect. It is an intelligent being in a body of light. It has form, but of a lower vibratory rate than that of the presence. It is the vehicle through which the presence acts in the physical form. Therefore, when you call to your presence, in reality the Christ self performs a service. The bodies of the presence and the Christ self are just as tangible in their own realms of vibratory action as the physical body is here to the physical senses. The diagram represents your own individualized presence of God, I am, in its relationship to you. A picture is an outpost of what is represented. A picture is the greatest focus of any divine being or any interactivity in the outer world. The diagram or chart is the only explanation of the truth of this law. It is an eye picture of the release of the power of the universe, which knows no opposite. The knowledge and understanding of the presence and its action is your freedom. The diagram or chart shows the trinity of your faculties acting at one point. It is a trinity of action. It is the action of the threefold flame. In every activity in the universe, there is a trinity of action: love, wisdom, and power, which in the knowledge of the presence becomes one. The chart is only an outer picture of it. One needs then to make effort for the realization of it. That is what these teachings are trying to do, to realize God, contemplate the presence, the chart at night. Keep feeling. Feeling is your powerhouse. One can hold a steady gaze upon the upper figure until a funnel of light forms between you and it, especially on a colored chart. Most important is your knowledge, understanding, and acceptance of your individualized I am presence in relationship to yourself as represented on the chart. Even an individual who is doubtful, if he were to look at the chart sincerely, wanting to know, for 5 minutes each day, he would get his proof. Yeah, there we have it. So we can see it's very important to call to our I am presence for it to release that crystal blue protective light around us. And Archangel Michael says also, which we'll go into later on too, about how important it is to ask our I am presence to clothe us in that armor of light, which is fashioned from beloved Archangel Michael's armor of light. Or we can ask for a blazing shield and sword of blue flame, and always a protective pillar of light. It calls for thick walls at the edge, and they can become thicker and stronger than any steel. And ask for protection around our loved ones, our homes. It's just endless. It's just so marvelous to have this knowledge of the light and how to call it in. But truly, as we're told, I of myself can do nothing. It all comes from our own I am presence. This is what the great divine director says. He says, never forget, you must remove the feeling in you that something outside of you has more power than the light within you. It's just like that. So that's a really important thing to remember. So we need to never have any fear. We've got this great, great light. So only fragments of the real understanding of the I am presence have been given to the outer world until now. And Saint Germain says, it is the most important understanding mankind can ever have. And there is no freedom nor perfection for the individual except through this conscious application. So we need to apply it, as we're told. It doesn't apply itself. We have to apply it, call for the light, get that feeling of faith, and make that conscious connection with our own I am presence. This is what they say. Remember again and again and again that as you grow into more and more intense acceptance of your mighty I am presence, the outer problems, which have seemed so terrifying, will surely fade from appearance. I just love that. That's from the I Am Discourses, Volume 3. So we have a direct link. Got a message there. All right, we will answer that, Tracy, beloved. We have a direct link to the central switchboard. It is such a powerhouse. We can call immediately, as we call to our I am presence, it is immediately in touch with all those specialists in the higher realms. So, because they specialize in things, we might need protection. We call to Archangel Michael and his 2IC Commander Conrad. We call to beloved Archai Faith for more faith. We call to beloved Lady Nada for more divine love. And so it goes on and on. Call to beloved Pallas Athena for truth. So the more we get into the teachings, the more you understand. But in the meantime, you just call directly to your own I am presence, because it knows exactly who to call there. And it releases it anyway through your presence, through your I am. So through our I am presence, we contact all the divine beings needed to bring the light to the earth. That's just the greatest thing too. We can help our planet in ways which we're told we cannot even begin to understand until we are ascended. So only our I am presence has the authority, not the human. That's the great difference between prayers and decrees, but we'll go more into that later. So for the light to act, we need to call for it daily through decrees. So this is done through our I am presence, who has the authority. And through this action, our I am presence and the great ascended beings have the permission to bring the necessary light to the slower realm, which is greatly needed. That's the great difference between prayers and decrees. The I am has the authority, whereas the human does not. Doesn't mean to say that prayers are not answered. They are, but often prayers are not answered because they don't even leave the room. The energy doesn't even leave the room. It's like parrot fashion. So really the intensity of the desire, the intensity of the issuing of the decrees in our thoughts and feelings is basically the amount of action that happens, or is the efficacy of our calls. So the call compels the answer, and the realm in need must make the calls. That's cosmic law. Otherwise, they would have come and sorted out our problems a long time ago, the Ascended Masters, but that's not the law. And obviously, it makes sense. We have to do it ourselves. So the power of light knows no limits or opposition, but it must be called forth. Yeah. So the physical flame rises, and so too does the sacred fire, and returns to its source, because like attracts like. So we need to invoke these conscious, intelligent flames every day and keep them sustained and expanding. So this is often where people lose it, unfortunately, because they're not disciplined enough every day to call to their I am presence, to call for that tube of light and the release of the violet flame and those things that we need to actually set ourselves free and free all the life that we've ever hurt or harmed and help our planet, because the flame does rise. So he says, these are what the great divine director says, I am. So he says, there are no two words in the vocabulary of human experience which release the power those two words do. The words God, divine mind, divinity, and all other terminology used to express the Godhead do not contain the power the words I am do. That's why I am is very important to preface all our decrees with I am. Okay, we're not going to do that now because we're right at the end. We're almost on time, but very important to spend time, which we do, in meditation and decrees daily. Now, you get to understand that more as we go along through the weeks, but also on the website, there's a lot. Yeah, but we won't do that right now. All right, so closing invocation. So I'm just thinking who'd like to say the invocation. And Jen, are you able to read the closing invocation? Would you mind reading that? I'm sure you've got a mic. I'm not sure she can open her mic though. Okay, not sure about that. Yeah, is that Corin? Oh, anyway, I'll tell you.
Yes, but I can't read it, my angel. I
Don't you-
can't read it.
I will. I'll read it. All right. So, beloved.
Okay.
Oh yeah, because it's very good to call to this. So, beloved I am presence and beloved Lord Cthulhu, nourish the seeds planted in my consciousness, so that the ideas entrusted to me become manifest flowers of perfect expression in my world and the world of all my fellow men. Beloved presence of God, I am. pour the light of thy great glory upon my consciousness and nourish the seeds planted by the masters. We thank you. Thank you. They say it's very good to always start and finish with those opening and closing invocations. So let's just take a moment now to fill our hearts with gratitude for these marvelous teachings and for our many, many blessings. I know we are all so blessed, and our beautiful earth, and truly our opportunity to serve the light through this knowledge and bring our earth into her glorious golden age, which is now dawning. So we just take a moment and we just say thank you to our own I Am Presence and the Ascended Masters, the legions of light. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely. Okay, so I'm going to just stop the record.